Do you ever wonder where all of those interesting stories come from? Marriage seems so easy.
I never meant to hurt her. What would I give?
I never got into a fight before. I always wonder myself. When you get to the end of the aisle, all that's waiting for you there are problems. It's the only thing that you're gonna get is problems.
I never meant to do something so irreparable. To be back in that kitchen.
Never. Well, where the crazy stories come from. So, really, what do you have waiting for you at the end of the aisle there?
I never meant to be in that apartment.
One time when I was in high school. But also the idea of making up stories is a little bit foolish. Your future is just putting out fires and sticking with one person. Are you gonna get bored of that one person? When you do,
A dick. But I think I was. I think I was very cold. I have a coldness to me. What would I give to be back there with them?
we were at the gym class. When people have this notion that it's okay to fabricate the details just to make the story a little bit more interesting, it's the craziest thing, because I've been in relationships where, I'm getting kind of a little bit like, it's been, a year or two or whatever, and
Just trying to defend myself. Comes from childhood, I guess. What would I do?
we got into a little scuffle. Me and this other kid. He was it was a small locker room, you know what I mean? It's just lying. You're embellishing your boring story of how you made the cake. Then I meet people and I talk to them and they say, I am more in love with my husband than I was the day I met him. I said, how long? 10 years we've been married.
The idea of going to defend myself. So I'm not going to let anything look as though it affects me. Nothing affects me. Anything.
And for some dumb reason, we were using the same hook to put our clothes on. I think of my ancestors. What, is there a checkpoint or something around like year 5 where it's like, oh yeah,
To throw the kitchen sink and a million insults, and doesn't matter to me. Why would it? To listen to all of their dumb problems again.
I started taking mine, he started taking his off, we started slapping, fighting, whatever, it was bullshit. His buddy grabs me, throws me across the room. And how all they did every day was gather around and tell stories about the future. It's the same thing with my grandparents. They seem miserable, but they have this rhythm to them.
We had our laughs. For them to hear my problems.
One of my friends shoves this guy right into the wall. Tell stories of the past of the past. They have this rhythm where they bounce off of each other.
We had our upsets. But when it was over quickly.
I go back to changing like nothing happened. It's the closest I ever got to being in a fight. I got into a couple beatdowns where I was just beating somebody up. But it was never a competition, All the way back to the first ever over. They still fight. Fighting's I'm starting to think maybe fighting is like a good thing. I used to think that fighting, I had a girlfriend, we would never fight really.
I gotta tell you, I mean, it wouldn't help, but it would make me feel better.
I mean, how could it be? I was always just so big. I mean, I guess we never really had anything to fight about. And we would never fight. And it didn't work out.
It sucks to be the bad guy. But you understand being the bad guy now. When I talk about my feelings, they become...
Bullying was never really that present either. I remember one time I played a practical joke on somebody. My country is very sad when, I think she was moving away, and I thought, every relationship I know in my life that has lasted a long time, they fight. And loud, too. I mean, I've been there, you're always, it's like, the dog in the room when they're about to have sex. It's like, get me out of here, But when they're about to have a fight,
You understand it, because being the bad guy means being selfish. It's like color theory. When I talk about my feelings...
And they went and told, like, their sister, and she was in, like, the older grade. You talk to the elders, and they tell you of what the way it was. And I remember somebody saying to me, I might have said this, but somebody said this to me before.
The bad guy is just looking out for yourself. But in doing so, what have you done? They go from the most obscure orange or yellow that you could ever think of to just yellow.
So her friends came over and started giving me a hard time, I was pre-puberty here, so I was only like 5'5", whatever. How everybody was together all the time. How dinner time wasn't the only time of togetherness, even though it isn't. Somebody has an AirPod in. But how disagreeing with somebody is like super respectful.
Everyone else is just upset. Everybody else is in pain, but you're okay. And it becomes a lot more defined and crystal clear, and I can use that to really try and help myself out.
They were all really big seamen, and they were like really mean. They just told me to apologize, so I just did it. They left me alone. Somebody has something else, a phone, the TV is on. There's no togetherness. There's no presence. To actually disagree with somebody is super, super respectful.
Because if I'm feeling like I'm paranoid and sad and depressed all at the same time, it turns out I'm just hungry.
But the hardest part was nobody is present with one another. It's not disrespectful at all to disagree with somebody, but you hold yourself, right? You're about to, it's going to be a problem, there's going to be a fight, I don't want to do this, confrontation, whatever.
So if you were just in pain and everybody else was okay, it's a much better deal, isn't it? Much better. I think I'll go for that one, please. The myriad of problems that you have as a hunter.
Seeing people get bullied. And because of the lack of presence that we have, we are always gone in the mind. The mind is never there. Finding common ground. Because you have an opinion because of this, I have an opinion because of that. In a relationship, is it about compromise? Is it? Because shouldn't you get what you want from a relationship?
But it wasn't even like I was in pain, it was just almost like, in this day and age, we're not as crucial as we once were.
There was one time, this little kid, the mind can never focus. These people are always thinking about another TV show or another. And if you're not getting what you want from this person, are you gonna, you just move on, right? But then comes the perspective of there is no such thing as the one.
To be so unsure is natural, especially when you're a human being. There was a day in a life where we were the creme de la creme. You would come to us and we were the men.
We're the same age, but he was like a foot shorter than me. He was stupid. TikTok to scroll on. It's sad, but it's the way it is. And I can't do anything by complaining about it. All I can do is... So you can really pick anyone, and once you spend enough time with them, as long as you're clear with your boundaries and stuff, you mold them into the perfect person for you. And that's really great, right? To mold them into the perfect person for you.
Overstimulated and just have a lack of processing power in the brain, so you end up like, oh, I'm not going to make a decision on anything. And then you finally make a decision, and you're like, whew. You're like, oh, I didn't really want to do that. What do you want? And now the men wear suits, and they trade internet money, and
he was kind of a outcast, and it was his own fault, to be honest. He'd go around and be like, rebel, be the change I want to see in the world, and fixed myself so that, and then, you're the perfect person for them because, I gotta get my sweetheart his granola. I gotta make sure that she, plugs her phone in at night. Otherwise she's gonna walk around with 4% battery all day.
What would you like? Okay, it's not what you want. What would future you be happy about you getting? They get all the check. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Nobody likes that, you know what I mean? If anybody else wants to fix themselves, they can follow my example. And they know how to do that. Goober.
What would future you receive and say to themselves, okay, this is nice. I like this. Like a six-pack. It's the most ridiculous thing that these children,
and he brought in a tennis ball one day. He was playing with it in the yard. And, the kids just came over and just took it, Finding the right person it's a magical thing. So I guess
first time I ever worked out, I looked in the mirror. I was like, damn, they wouldn't last 5 seconds in the wilderness. And that's where we came from. So it was my skills, even though they would work 40,000 years ago and today.
And he followed them around the entire recess. Just begging, sniffling, crying, give it back, please, please, stop it, please. But if I could go back to any time in the world, it would be the days when we were around fires and we would tell myths and legends. It's not settling. It's the opposite of settling when you think about it, right? When you're going to spend the rest of your life with somebody, one person, you're going to have to fight like hell.
And I said to myself, I don't ever want to not feel like this again. Basically saying, I want to feel like this every time I look in the mirror. And it's been a slow, steep climb. I'm just not as valued, which is, it's whatever.
It was so sad to see that But I remember just watching. I kept close. I kept thinking, oh, I should. I didn't. To think how much more developed the mind could be if it wasn't rotting away by the 21st century, food, social media, television, all sorts. To keep them.
I miss her. Just born in the wrong time, I guess.
And I remember apologizing to him afterwards. I was like, sorry that happened to you, buddy. I should have stepped in. I'm sorry. He was, don't worry about it. Look at the size of them. They would have beaten you up. I don't know about that, kid. That is a frightening thought. How underdeveloped are we, whilst also being advanced, quote unquote. Settling for whatever girl at the bar wants to screw you at 3 a.m. That's settling.
I don't miss her. I guess everybody has their own place in the world, and everybody believes that they're here for a reason. And
bullies are weird. Weird. They got a lot of confidence, and they often do not have the goods to back it up. We are supposed to be advanced. In the last 100 years, so much has happened. 100 years ago, you could not have a hot shower.
we needed time away. Everybody has their own personal legend.
This guy threatened to headbutt me once. But they were so much more sophisticated than we are. It's confusing, I know.
They need to learn to read the omens.
And he's like, I'll headbutt you. He was looking up at me, he must have been 5'1". He was looking up at me, he goes, I'm gonna headbutt you. Maybe one day we will figure it out.
Spend too much time with anybody. It's like, I was reading this thing in a book the other day, and it said you just get so used to spending time with people, like you go to school, you go to work, and you spend time with people constantly, and it's the same people. I think the idea of it was you end up wanting to change people, make their own decisions instead of waiting for the universe to give them sign after sign after sign after sign. 444-666-777. Just make a decision. Check in with yourself. How are you feeling? And having the nuts, which I don't know if a lot of these Wall Street guys really have, having the nuts to make a decision.
It's funny. The girls were good too. Bullies, bitches. Girls are vicious. I remember,
because you get angry, when they don't change. It's what it takes to be a man, in my opinion. It's not money. It's not clothes. The man maketh everything. The man maketh the clothes, man maketh the name, the man maketh everything.
I brought in a pen to school, and it had like a laser pointer on it.
And I think I can relate to that a lot. Everybody has an idea about how other people should live their lives, but they don't have a fucking clue how to live their own life.
I remember seeing from across the room, this girl was at my desk. I remember it was the strangest feeling I ever had, because I saw her talking to somebody, and she was like doing something with her hand, like this.
Like when you hear a name like, I don't know.
I couldn't see what was in her hand, so it was kind of like this, And I got a little bit closer, I saw that she had my pen. And she was just like, really kind of like a spaz, just kind of going. And she was talking about something.
I can watch what they did, and I can see all the mistakes they made. And Thomas Edison or Isaac Newton or whatever, one of the great inventors who changed our time.
And as she saw me, she kind of just dropped it and went, whoops. I thought, wow. What a dickless thing to do. Like, you have no balls.
Also, it immediately gives me a much clearer and more defined scope. The name holds a lot of weight to it, right? Because of what comes with the name. Like, you just take the name Thomas, it's, but then, Thomas Edison, or Albert Einstein.
There's nothing. I mean, it was a girl, of course she has no balls. But it was like, it's a really cowardice thing to do.
So my scope is like this big. It's huge. It goes out of frame. Like when you hear Einstein, it's like, oh, you think genius, right? That's why there's a friggin' TV show called Little Einsteins.
And I think back at this girl in particular. She was an exchange student. She came in, and she was nothing but noise.
Okay, that's good. That's bad. And your scope comes in. And now all of a sudden it's like, instead of flicking everywhere with my eyes, I can just look here with my eyes. Making your legacy as a man is tough.
Nothing but problems and nothing but noise. And she picked fights with everybody, and I think at the end of the day, everybody hated her.
And I have a much, much clearer idea. Especially today. There's a million ways you can make money, but is money your legacy?
But the weird thing is, why are they like that, bullies? Why do they make you feel, well, in my case, kind of, what the fuck is wrong with you? In other cases, like, victimized.
Of the task at hand. Is money your personal legend?
It's because they're victims themselves, of course.
It allows me to, is money what you crave the most inside? Because it can't be.
The parents.
It's like, how in dreams you never see your cell phone? In dreams you never see money. Really? I don't think so. You see experiences that money gets you, but
anybody else? I don't know. It's the putting on to other people how you feel. I don't feel like a victim. I'm gonna make you feel like a victim.
To make stronger choices, maybe. How are you gonna make your life brilliant and excellent?
I guess it's some crazy, fucked up thing in their minds. They're like, oh, it's justice, it's fair. I don't think so.
How are you going to do that? What are you going to do to make that happen?
Because then when bullies get justice, it's like, well, then they got beat down twice, right? Beat down by their parents.
Go out and have an adventure. Pick up a bow and arrow and kill a deer. Eat it.
And they came to school, they tried to beat down on somebody and they got beat down themselves. So they just got beat down twice, So that's the kid that's gonna bring a school to its knees with a threat,
Instead of going to the store and buying a frozen pizza or another Ben & Jerry's when you already have one in the freaking freezer. Finish that one first.